Have you ever wondered, after everything you've done, what people truly remember about you? Not the chores, not the little mistakes, but the feelings you left behind in their hearts. Feelings last longer than tasks. You might forget what you ate yesterday, but you won't forget the feeling when someone smiled at you or when a single harsh word weighed you down all day. The brain doesn't record every detail, it edits, and what it clings to most is emotion. Think back to a birthday party 10 years ago. You probably can't recall the cake, the clothes, or even the location. But you can still remember the warmth of everyone singing for you or the sting of loneliness if you sat alone in the corner. That's how memory works. It trims away details and preserves emotions, because feelings are tied to survival. Neuroscience explains this through the amygdala, the brain's emotion center, which tags emotional experiences with extra glue, making them harder to forget. Events charged with joy, sorrow, shame, or pride stick far longer than routine acts like grocery shopping or washing dishes. This means others will also remember you not for the tasks you completed, but for how you made them feel. Your family won't recall how many times you cleaned, but they'll remember the comfort of being heard. Your grandchildren might forget endless reminders, but they'll remember the look of trust in your eyes. Friends may not remember your stories, but they'll remember the laughter you sparked. Here lies the paradox. Many people spend their lives collecting things done, while what truly remains in others' hearts is the feeling of being with you. If you snap often, people remember that heaviness. If you radiate warmth, they'll remember the light you brought even after your achievements fade. To think of it like this: memory is a strange fridge. It doesn't store the food, it stores the flavor. And that flavor is the emotion you left behind. So the real question isn't, will they remember what I did? But, what feeling will they remember when they think of me? If that answer makes you smile, you're already on the right path. Emotional memories stick to the brain. Picture this: you're walking down the street, and suddenly a certain smell, freshly baked bread, maybe, or a whiff of old perfume, hits you. Instantly, you're transported back decades, standing in your grandmother's kitchen or walking into your first dance. That's not magic, that's neuroscience. Your brain has a secret filing system, and emotions are the VIP stamps that decide what gets stored forever. Scientists have spent years poking at this mystery. They've found that when an event carries strong emotion, your brain doesn't just log it away in the to-do list folder. Instead, the amygdala, your brain's alarm bell, tags that moment with high importance. Then the hippocampus, which organizes memories, treats it like a highlighted passage in a book. The result? Even years later, one small trigger can bring the whole scene rushing back, feelings and all. Think about it. You've likely forgotten the hundreds of times you've set the table, but you remember the one dinner where an argument broke out, and you felt invisible. Or you recall the time someone raised a toast to you, and your chest swelled with pride. The physical actions were the same: plates, forks, food, but the emotion wrapped around them made all the difference. Psychologists call this emotional salience. In plain English, the brain is lazy about details but greedy for meaning. It filters out tasks and clings to feelings, because feelings are signals for survival. Joy tells your brain, do more of this, it's good for you. Fear screams, avoid this, it might hurt. Shame whispers, don't repeat that. And so, emotional experiences burn brighter in the brain's memory circuits than neutral ones. Here's something even more fascinating: emotions don't just linger in the mind, they echo in the body. Stressful experiences elevate cortisol, the fight or flight hormone, which sharpens the brain's recording of the event. That's why you can still recall a car accident in vivid detail, but not the 5 safe drives before it. On the flip side, Happy emotions release dopamine, a neurotransmitter that acts like a reward signal, strengthening the brain's connections to lock in those joyful memories. It's like your brain is saying, "This matters, save it for later." Now, let's bring this home. If you're over 50, you may have noticed that time feels faster, days blur, and tasks slip through the cracks. That's not just age, it's the way memory works. The brain naturally trims away routine, repetitive tasks. But emotions, especially the ones tied to relationships, stick like glue. That means the way you make others feel today could outlive the exact things you did for them. Here's a small example. Imagine helping a neighbor carry groceries. 10 years from now, they might not recall the specific bags you lifted, but they will remember the kindness in your tone, or the sense that they weren't alone. That feeling of support lingers, long after the milk and bread are gone. So why does this matter? Because it hands you an incredible kind of power. You don't need to achieve something grand every single day to leave a mark. What people hold on to is the emotional footprint you leave behind. A footprint of warmth, of patience, of humor, that's what endures. Or, if you're careless, a footprint of negativity, bitterness, or constant complaint. And unlike tasks, feelings can't be erased with a checklist. They live in people's nervous systems. It's sobering, isn't it? The fact that someone may forget every single task you accomplished, yet remember a single cruel sentence you said in frustration. But it's also empowering. It means a small moment of kindness can echo louder than years of silence. To put it bluntly, your brain is biased. It values emotional color over practical details. And everyone else's brain works the same way. That's why your legacy won't be built from to-do lists checked off, but from the feelings you sparked in others. So, when you look back at your life, or think about how others will look back at you, remember this truth: people may forget the tasks, but they will carry the feelings. And if you want to be remembered as more than a list of chores, you must plant emotions worth keeping. The psychology after 50. Here's a curious thing about aging: the older you get, the more your brain values emotions over facts. Studies show that after age 50, people naturally shift toward what psychologists call the positivity effect. Simply put, your brain becomes less interested in details and more focused on emotional meaning. Think about it: how often do you recall the exact errands you ran last month? Probably not at all. But you might clearly remember the joy of a grandchild's laugh, or the sting of a friend's criticism. Tasks fade, feelings stay sharp. It's not memory loss, it's memory wisdom. Your brain is trimming the clutter to save what matters most. Science explains this through changes in the prefrontal cortex and amygdala. As we age, the brain calms its response to stress, and in turn, begins to highlight positive emotions more strongly. That's why older adults often report greater satisfaction from small joys: a good meal, a meaningful chat, a quiet walk. But there's a catch. While positive feelings can shine brighter, negative emotions can still cut deep. A harsh comment at age 60 can leave just as lasting a mark as it did at 20. The difference is, you now have more power to choose which emotions you hold on to, and which ones you pass on to others. So if you're in your 50s, 60s, or beyond, your memory is no longer about storing endless tasks. It's about curating an emotional legacy. Every word, every tone, every gesture becomes part of how people remember you. And in truth, that's far more valuable than whether you balanced the checkbook or folded the laundry. Your brain, in its wisdom, is asking you, what kind of feelings do you want to leave behind? The risk of being remembered as a complainer. Here's a hard truth: negativity is sticky. Your brain is wired to notice and remember unpleasant experiences more than pleasant ones, a survival trick from ancient times. Back then, remembering danger kept you alive. Today, it just means people remember the time you snapped at them far longer than the time you smiled. Think about someone in your life who always complains. You probably can't list all the things they grumbled about, but you can recall the heavy, draining feeling of being around them. That's emotional memory at work. The details blur, but the weight of negativity stays lodged in your chest. Scientists call this the negativity bias. Bad experiences activate the amygdala more strongly, releasing stress hormones like cortisol that sear the moment into memory. One cruel comment can erase 10 kind ones, because the brain treats negativity like an emergency siren. Now imagine this: if most of your conversations revolve around what's wrong, aches, annoyances, politics, the neighbor's dog, then that's the flavor people will carry of you. Not your kindness, not your effort, but the emotional aftertaste of complaint. And once people associate you with that feeling, it's hard to undo. The risk is not just social, it's personal. Complaining regularly reinforces neural pathways that make negativity your default lens. The more you rehearse misery, the better your brain gets at finding it. Over time, you don't just sound like a complainer, you become one, and that's how you'll be remembered. But here's the twist: recognizing this bias gives you power. You can choose to shift the balance. If negativity leaves strong scars, positivity can leave strong imprints too. The difference is in what you repeat, day after day. So, ask yourself, do you want to be remembered as the one who drained the room or the one who lifted it? Because one way or another, people will remember. The power of becoming an inspirer. Imagine walking into a room where one person lights up the whole space. They're not perfect, not rich, not even especially loud. But somehow, people leave feeling lighter, more hopeful, just by being near them. That's the difference between a complainer and an inspirer. Science backs this up. Psychologists studying emotional contagion found that moods spread like invisible waves. One person's positivity can lift an entire group, while negativity can drag it down just as fast. Your brain, through mirror neurons, actually mimics the emotions of those around you, like catching a yawn. But with feelings, this means every small act of encouragement, every laugh you share, every patient ear you lend, creates ripples that extend far beyond the moment. People may not recall your exact words, but they'll remember the courage, hope, or comfort they felt because of you. Take a simple example: a friend hesitates to try something new. If you respond with doubt, their fear deepens. But if you say, "I believe you can," that phrase echoes in their memory, fueling action. Years later, they may forget what you wore or where you were sitting, but they'll still carry the spark you gave them. The beauty of becoming an inspirer is that it doesn't require grand gestures. You don't need to deliver speeches or write books. A kind word, a playful joke, a patient silence, these tiny sparks accumulate. And over time, they form the emotional legacy you'll leave behind. Here's the question: when people remember you, do you want their shoulders to slump or their spirits to rise? Because one path leads to being the background noise of complaint, the other makes you the voice of hope in their story. A story of transformation. Let me tell you about George. At 62, George was known in his neighborhood as the grumbler. He complained about the weather, about politics, about his aching back, even about the way kids laughed too loudly. People didn't avoid him out of dislike, they avoided him because being around him felt exhausting. One day, George overheard his granddaughter whisper, "I don't like visiting Grandpa, he's always mad." That single sentence cut deeper than any ache in his body. For the first time, he saw clearly how his words painted the memory his family would carry of him. Not warmth, not love, just bitterness. George made a small decision. Every time he felt like complaining, he would pause and replace it with one positive observation. At first, it felt fake. Saying "it's a beautiful day" while his knees hurt didn't feel natural. But slowly, something shifted. His neighbors noticed. His granddaughter began sitting next to him again. People laughed with him instead of sighing at him. What happened? By changing his words, George changed the emotions he planted in others' memories. Within months, he went from the man people avoided to the man they sought out for a kind word. He hadn't won the lottery or cured his aches, but he had transformed the emotional legacy he was leaving behind. The story of George is fictional, but the lesson is real. People may forgive complaints, but they never forget how those complaints made them feel. And just the same, they never forget the feeling of being uplifted. Your transformation doesn't need to be dramatic. It starts with a choice to notice what you're leaving behind in each interaction. You can shift from draining people to inspiring them with nothing more than your words and presence. So ask yourself, do you want your loved ones to whisper, "They were always angry," or to say, "They made me feel stronger"? That choice is yours, starting now. Small tools, big shifts. You don't need a grand plan to change how people remember you. Often, it's the smallest habits that leave the deepest marks. Think of them as emotional tools, tiny actions that, repeated daily, shape the way others feel around you. First tool, the pause. Before you speak, especially when frustrated, give yourself 3 seconds. Science shows this pause lowers the brain's stress response and gives the prefrontal cortex time to choose a calmer reaction. That simple gap can turn a sharp complaint into a gentler comment, or even silence that spares someone else's feelings. Second tool, the reframe. Instead of saying, "My knees hurt again," try, "At least my legs carried me through another day." This isn't fake optimism, it's teaching your brain to notice possibility. Studies in cognitive psychology confirm that reframing builds resilience and creates more positive memories for both you and those listening. Third tool, the gift of attention. In a world buzzing with distraction, nothing feels more inspiring than being fully heard. When you look someone in the eye and truly listen, you're planting a memory that will outlast any advice. People rarely recall your exact words, but they never forget how valued you made them feel. These tools don't cost money, don't demand hours of effort. They're micro-choices, repeated again and again, that shift the emotional flavor you leave behind. Like seasoning a meal, a pinch of patience, a dash of humor, a sprinkle of encouragement, these transform the whole dish. And here's the secret, the more you practice these tools, the more natural they become. Over time, positivity stops being a performance and starts being your default. And when that happens, people don't just remember you, they cherish the way you made their lives lighter. The weight of legacy. Here's the truth most people avoid. One day, your story will be told without you in the room. Friends, children, maybe even strangers will share memories that sum up your existence in a handful of sentences, and in that moment, it won't be your job title, your bank balance, or your achievements that carry the most weight. What lingers is emotional residue, the feelings you consistently left behind. Were you the one who lifted the room, or the one who drained it? Did your presence bring calm or tension? Psychologists call this emotional imprinting. The brain encodes strong emotions faster than neutral details. That means people won't remember every conversation, but they will remember the warmth of your smile, the sharpness of your anger, or the steadiness of your encouragement. This imprint becomes your legacy, etched into the nervous systems of those you touched. The beauty is, you can choose what that imprint will be. It doesn't matter if you've spent years being negative, distant, or distracted. Brains are plastic, they adapt quickly to new patterns. When you start planting kindness, presence, and patience, others feel it almost immediately. Imagine this, your loved ones years from now, telling stories. Do you want them to say, "She always worried and complained," or "She made us feel safe, even when things were hard"? That choice is being written in every small interaction. Starting today, legacy is not some grand monument waiting at the end of life. It's the collection of emotional snapshots you're creating right now. And the best time to change that collection isn't tomorrow, it's this very moment.